All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get started. Today, we're going to be talking about the Hisense kitchen suite. Specifically, we're going to talk about the install of the kitchen suite. We are going to talk about the install for the refrigerators, the range, and the dishwasher as well. Now, when it comes to the kitchen suite, we do have multiple options that consumers can choose from. The dishwasher is going to be the same throughout. The microwave is going to be the same throughout each kitchen suite. But as you can see on your screen there, the refrigerators are going to be different. They have a variety of choices for types of refrigerator that they can purchase. And then the range is going to come in either a standard electric or a gas style range. And we're going to talk about the basics of installing those today in this class. Now, one thing you will notice on your screen as well, that each of the Hisense products does come with a 2-year manufacturer warranty. That is something that definitely does set us apart from our competitors. We have a product that looks good. It fits most budgets and the consumers have, and it comes with a 2-year manufacturer warranty for parts and labor. So with that, let's kind of get into it. And we're going to start with the refrigerator. We're going to start with that refrigerator. Specifically, we're going to talk about the HRF 266. This is going to be our most popular refrigerator. The 266 does stand for 26.6 cubic foot. HRF just stands for Hisense refrigerator unit. Now, one thing you do want to make sure when you are doing an install is please make sure to get a copy of that model serial number tag. Make sure the consumer has that, because that serial number tag, if they ever lose their receipt or proof of purchase, we are going to be basing the warranty off of that serial tag. So first thing I'm going to do today is, again, just kind of a recap on how to read a serial tag for Hisense. Now, when it comes to our refrigerators, our manufacturer line is going to be the very first digit of the serial number. So that's which line at the manufacturing plant that particular unit was manufactured on. The next 4 digits is going to be the production year. The month will be the next 2 digits, and the following 2 digits will be the day. And then the last 5 digits or so will be the position that the unit was produced. So with that being said, taking a look at my little picture here, let's take a look and see when this particular refrigerator was manufactured. It was manufactured on product or manufacturing line C in 2020 in November on the 10th. And it was number 170 on that production line. So that's how we break down a serial tag or a serial number for the Hisense refrigerators. Again, that's going to come in extremely important, because if the consumer cannot find their proof of purchase, we're going to base that 2-year warranty on that serial number. When was the unit manufactured? Now, as far as space goes, what kind of space do you need in order to have this particular unit? Well, this unit does run about 70 inches high. It does run 36 inches wide and 33.5 or 33.6 inches deep. So this unit is a full size or bigger size unit. So you do need to have a proper cutout space available. And again, like most manufacturers, and I know this is going to be difficult for a lot of consumers to grasp, but for a lot of manufacturers, we would like to have about 2 inches of space all the way around that refrigerator. So on either side, 2 inches, and on the top, 2 inches, and on the back side, 2 inches. That way airflow can move around as that machine is cooling, and we can move that heat source or that heat away from the refrigerator, the inside of the refrigerator, and out and vent it out to where into the room where we want it to be. That way it does help with the cooling. Now, if that unit is pushed into a really tight cutout and it does not have proper airflow, you will see cooling issues. And that's regardless of manufacturer. That's not just a Hisense thing. But for us, we would like to have that space around there, at least a good inch if you can. 2 inches would be the best possible way that you could go. But for the average consumer, this is going to be a 36-inch wide and about 70 inches high. So it is going to be a big unit. They do need to have a good size cutout or a space to put it. Now, we do offer smaller units as well, then as well as counter depth units. So if they're looking for a specific counter depth, we do have those options as well. Now, the total volume of this unit, like I said, is going to be 26.6 cubic foot. The user interface is going to be on the very top on that tabletop display. And for the consumer, the fresh food section does have the water drinking portion or water area in it. So when you open up that left-hand side door, right inside the door, there is going to be my water dispenser. And then up in the upper right-hand corner of that fridge is going to be the water filter. And the water filter is going to be important because it does come with a little specific tool with the user manual. So when you are giving this to the customer, when you're giving them the paperwork, inside that packet with the user manual is going to be the little plastic tool that helps the user take out that water filter if needed. We're going to see specifically about the water filter coming up here in a few slides, but make sure they have that available. And just like any refrigerator, if you do need to level it out, we are going to make large adjustments to the cabinet with the feet on the bottom. There are 2 feet, adjustable feet in the front, so we can raise and lower those legs up to make the unit stable and or adjust the cabinet. Any smaller adjustments to the doors, there are little nylon washers that come in with the user manual as well. You do need to remove the door and put the washer on the peg for the bottom hinge and then replace the door. And we're going to talk about that coming up in just a few slides as well. But that's going to give you a basic idea of how to adjust that door. Now, as far as location goes, I did put the next few slides in here just for a few minutes here. I'm going to talk through just because as installers, it is kind of important, I think, to know some of the things that do come with the refrigerator and where they are located, because that does play a part when you, especially if you have to take the doors off the unit in order to get it into the home, which in this case, you should not usually have to do that because the handles are actually inset into the doors. So there is no exterior handle on the outside that would actually cause you to not be able to slide it through a doorway. Now, that display board, in order to get the display board off, you do have a couple screws. They are Phillips head screws that you do need to take out, and taking out that display board will get you to the door hinge area, and just disconnect the wires and take the door hinge off, and you can lift that door up off the bottom hinge. When you go to put it back together, and I'll bring this up because this is very important, because in all of my years of training and doing tech rides with technicians, I cannot count how many times I have seen the installers or service techs, when they've had to move the product in, take the door off, they forget to reconnect the wires there underneath that door display board. So I have on here listed, you got your door switch, you got your display board, and your humidity temperature sensors as well. All of that power running goes through the display board area. So we do have to watch for that as well. When we're taking that off, we take those doors off, we need to make sure everything gets connected back up. Otherwise, that machine is not going to cool properly. All right. On the rear side of the unit, we do have the power cord that is attached to the main control board. Now, for you as installers, I did take the back cover off of this particular unit so you can see what's going on here. But this is where we have our machine compartment, our compressor, our condenser. Please note, if you are moving this unit in and out of a house with a dolly, the water evaporation dish is on that left-hand side, which I'm sorry, on the right-hand side. I got my left and right backwards there. On the right-hand side, as you're looking at it right underneath that condenser, which means if you are taking a dolly, please make sure that you are sliding that dolly in under the compressor machine area on the left-hand side. That way you do not run the risk of cracking that evaporator dish and then causing damage to the consumer's floor. So you always want to make sure that the dolly that you're using, if you're using a appliance dolly, make sure that dolly lip goes under that compressor machine compartment so you do not crack that water retention area. Also on here, you're going to see that we have some water hoses that run to our primary water valve, but more importantly is going to be on the very next slide about that water filtration area. What you're going to see here is with the back compartment on, or the back cover on that compartment, as you're looking at it, when we go to install the water for the customer, now it is a standard water connection, but the hose that goes from the wall to the machine connects directly to that water supply hose, which is going, whoops, hit one too many buttons there. Your hose, your water hose is actually right there, the connector nut number 2. I'll just kind of circle it right there for you. That's the connector nut, which means the water line from the house is going to connect directly to that water connector. That water connector nut is going to run, or that line is going to run up to the water filter. And from the water filter, it's going to run back down to the primary valve behind that compartment shield in the lower portion of the refrigerator. Now, I know that's a little bit different than what some of you may be used to with some different brands. Other brands, the water line connects directly to the water valve first and then runs up to the filter. Ours is different. It does connect to the filter first, and then it runs down to the main water valve. Now, as far as how that looks for you guys, I'll give you a little bit better description of it when it comes to our subsystems here. What that looks for you is, again, we see the water supply from the house right here. And that is going to run, is a front view and a side view of the unit. So it's going to run up to the filter. From the filter, it's going to run down to the primary valve. From that primary valve, it's going to be dispensed out to either the ice maker or the water tank for the water dispenser inside of the unit. So water supply from the house to the filter to our main valve, which then goes either to the ice maker or to my water tank. My water tank does have a secondary valve on it for that water dispenser button to be pressed. Now, a lot of you I know in the past will get the question of, when it comes to that ice maker, how much ice should that ice maker be making, and how long is it going to take to fill that bucket? So as you're talking to the customer and you're hooking this all up, the Hisense ice maker machine in this particular unit is going to make 12 cubes of ice. They are trapezoidal. It is a flex tray ice maker, but it's going to make 12 cubes of ice about every 2 hours. So about every 2 hours, you're going to get a batch of ice. And the bucket that the ice goes into holds roughly about 5 to 6 pounds of ice. So we do like to say, as always, most manufacturers, we want somewhere between 24 to 48 hours before that ice bucket actually gets filled. And then, like any other manufacturer, that first batch or two of ice, once it's made, remind the customer just to toss that first batch of ice. because again, you never know what might be in that material, and it just kind of helps clean everything out and making sure everything is good. So make sure you tell the customer, toss that first batch or two of ice. And then after that, you have 24 to 48 hours before that bucket does start to get filled. Other than that, hooking up the refrigerator is pretty simple. Just make sure you plug it in and you should be good to go from there as far as install goes. It is a pretty standard refrigerator. There's not a whole lot of bells and whistles on it, as you can see from the very first picture we got there. It's a basic refrigerator. So taking it and getting those door hinges off are actually pretty simple to do. You do have a couple screws once you get that upper tabletop display off, and then just lift the door up just like you would any other normal refrigerator. So with that, I'm going to pause here momentarily for any potential questions. If anyone did decide to join, because I cannot see the, oh, maybe I can see the chat. It actually appeared up over here on the side. I did not realize it was sitting up there. I'll move that over here so I can see it. Mr. Mark says, if there is a sidewall, does the spacing need to be wider on the wall side so the door opens fully? If there is a sidewall, yes, it does need to be a little bit wider, or at least pulled a little bit out past that sidewall if you can, so the door can open fully. So yeah, that door does open up a good distance. So 90, I would say probably, I'd probably say about 100, maybe 110 degrees from the close point or so. So yeah, if there is a sidewall, you definitely do want to have some extra space there to allow the door to open up properly. Good question, Mark. Keeping me on my toes. I like it. All right. I think that was it. Yeah, that's the only one I saw in the chat. So let's move on and let's talk about the dishwasher. Now, this is where it gets a little bit more intense. A refrigerator, that's pretty simple to install. You just take it out of the box and slide it in the slot and plug it in, hook up the water. Pretty easy. The dishwasher is where we get a little bit more complicated. Again, just as a reminder, always make sure that you get that model serial tag recorded for that customer. Make sure they have it written down somewhere. You have it for your records as well. How you read the model serial tag or the serial number for our dishwashers at Hisense, pretty simple. The very first digit is going to be the production year. So in this particular case, I have a 1, which means it could be 2011, could be 2021, could be 2031, so on and so forth. The next 2 digits is going to be my production week. And the very next digit is going to be a 3. It's pretty much always going to be the number 3. We are a Chinese manufacturer, and to the Chinese culture, the number 3 is a very important and lucky number. So it is going to be there as a representation of that culture. And then the last 4 digits is going to be the positions that it was produced on the manufacturing line. So when you look at my dishwasher I have here, I have a serial number of 0293153, which means this unit is going to be made in the year 2020, and it's going to be made the 29th week of the year, which is roughly July 18th-ish. And the 3 is there because 3s are cool and important. And finally, the production number, it was number 1,543. Now, when it comes to installing the unit, this is where we get, again, a little bit more specific. So you definitely want to make sure that you verify the dimensions of the unit and the cutout to make sure that you have enough space. As you can see on the screen here, There's my dimensions, a standard, pretty normal standard dimensions for a dishwasher. A couple things you do need to know about our dishwasher is, and we're going to see this coming up in a few slides as well, but number one, our dishwashers, the Hisense dishwasher, comes with your power cord and your water line already attached. Now, our water lines do hook up in the back of the unit. Our water valve is in the very back of the unit. And our power cord runs and connects directly to the main control board. So there is no junction box that you would normally wire up the unit with. We're going to see that here in a few seconds as well. But it comes with a power cord that connects directly to the control board. There is no junction box to do your wiring as you normally would on some of our competitors' dishwashers. Now, as far as connecting it goes, once you verify those dimensions, you can start sliding it into the cutout. The unit does come with a protective film. That protective film goes on the underside of the countertop. It must be attached to the countertop underneath, in between the countertop and the dishwasher, right in the very front of the countertop. And the reason for this is because our dishwasher does have an automatic door pop on it, which means at the end of the cycle, when the process is all done, we're going to automatically open that dishwasher door to allow the steam and the heat that is inside the dishwasher to escape, which provides a better drying performance. And this little film actually protects the consumer's countertops, especially if they have those more budget-friendly style counters. And we get too much moisture there, it causes the counter to warp. So this protective film is there to make sure that that does not happen. So that and protective film must be installed. To level out the unit, we have a couple options. We do have two legs in the front that you can adjust via a slot or flathead screwdriver, or if you really wanted, you could take an open end wrench and turn those two front legs to raise and lower the front of the unit. Then right in the center of the kick plate, there is a third little screw, or a screw that goes to a third leg. That leg is in the very rear of the unit. That leg, or that screw, is a Phillips screw in this case, which means you are going to have to take a screwdriver to turn that little screw, which turns the rod and raises and lowers the rear of the dishwasher. However, this is where I've seen a lot of installers make some mistakes. Number one, that little rod that connects that screw in the front to the leg in the back is typically always going to be plastic, which means if you are just letting the dishwasher sit there as you're trying to turn that screw, that plastic rod underneath is bowing and you're really not doing much. So what you actually have to do is kind of tilt the dishwasher forward, make your adjustment on that screw to either raise or lower that leg, and then set the rear of the dishwasher back down and check the level. And if you need to readjust, tilt it forward again and readjust that leg and set the unit back down. By taking the weight off the rear portion of that dishwasher, it is allowing you to make a proper adjustment. Again, if you leave the dishwasher sitting there and all the weight of it on that rear leg, as you're trying to adjust that screw, it's really not going to do much, and you're going to have a very difficult time getting it adjusted. Now, once you got that all set and leveled, and you checked your level with a leveling device across the top and the sides of the unit, you can actually start hooking up your water and your drain line. Now, these pictures here, you see the very first couple units that we got, or that I got for testing, they did not have the adjustable end on the drain line. This is a European and Asian style design, which means their drain pipes are a lot smaller than ours in the US. So we took a page out of the Ingenious notebook and said, hey, there is a kit out on the market that we can attach to the end of the drain hose that we can cut at the different sizes that we may need or run across in order to attach it to either a drain pipe or a garbage disposal, which is the pictures that you see on the screen right now. So we took that and we made it one step farther, where now all of our dishwashers are coming with a drain hose that has that adjustable end piece on it as part of the hose. It's actually molded as part of the hose. So you don't have to do the extra little steps of attaching the little kit to it. You just take and you snip or cut off the part of the drain hose that you need for the proper sizing of whether you're going into a regular drain line or you're going into a garbage disposal. So you can see in the very first picture how each one of those sizes is tiered based on what you may have. And you would just cut off the portion that you do not need on the end of that drain line and stick that drain line in the garbage disposal or stand-up pipe that you may have. One thing we do want to make sure, though, is that we all have a high loop. Now, for those of you that may be in an area that uses an air gap, such as California, they have an air gap that comes to the top of the sink or above the sink area. That is considered a high loop in those situations. But for those of us that do not have the air gap that we would attach the drain hose to, we would make sure that we have a high loop. So the drain line has to come all the way to the very top of the underside of the counters. And that makes sure that when we're draining, or as that machine is draining out, it's pushing that water up and into the garbage disposal or drain line as it's supposed to do. And it's not running back into the unit. So we must have a high loop there. If there is no high loop installed, then the unit is not installed properly. So do make sure you have a high loop. Next up, securing the unit to the cabinets. Once you secure, or how to secure the unit to the cabinets, we have a couple ways to do so. And when I say a couple, I really only mean one way, but you have two options within that one way. None of our units are attachable via a top mount. So you cannot attach it to the underside of the countertop. Everything is mounted directly to the cabinets or side mounted. Now, most of us have seen in the very first picture here is how most manufacturers do a side mount, which means there are two screws, usually somewhere near the top of the dishwasher, that would mount directly into the cabinet, one on each side. However, with Hisense, for a little extra security or extra mounting, we have a couple extra screws. And that is going to be two more screws down at the bottom, one on each side. So as you can see in that bottom picture, I have the door open, or the door is open, and there's two screws that are being mounted in the lower portion of that side wall of that dishwasher. And there are some spacers in there as well if you need to have a little extra, if you have a little extra play in the side of the dishwasher, you have some spacers in there to help secure it up a little bit more. So there are actually minimum, there are two screws that need to be set, usually the top two, and then that keeps the unit from falling forward. And for extra security, extra stiffness, if you want, you have the bottom two screws that can go in as well. So there is potentially 4 screws to mount the unit to the cabinets. Again, there is no top mount option for this. Everything is going to be a side mount option. Lastly, or next to last, I should say, because I do want to talk about the starting procedure as well. But next to last for install, once you get this unit all hooked up, you got your water hooked up now, you got your power hooked up, you got your drain line installed, you got it into the cabinet, you got it mounted on the cabinet, is the toe kick. Now, our toe kick is adjustable to the depth of the cabinet toe kicks. which means if you look in the little circular pictures within the larger square picture there, the toe kick actually sits down on two little side pieces that pull out and push back. We go from the side view here, if I can see it in my camera. So they pull out or push back based on the depth that you need for the cabinet toe kick. So once you get the toe kick, and it just slides down on top of that little foot there, and then you can adjust it so it's nice and flush all the way across your kitchen undersides. That way you don't have the dishwasher sitting too far out or too far back, and it's a nice even look all the way across. The last thing I want to cover for installing the dishwasher is making sure that you run a test cycle or start the unit for the customer before you leave. And this is where a lot of installers were having issues with Hisense product, because our unit does not have a start button. It has a power button. It has the cycle button, or the different cycles you can choose, and some extra features you can choose, but there is no start. So let's see the next slide in the video, and we will take a look at how to start the unit. All right, did y'all catch that? Because it is a little bit different. Again, this is more of a European agent style design and how the unit starts. So we power the unit on. We turn the power on. We choose the cycle that we want. And if we have any extra options that we want, such as an extra rinse or a heated dry or whatever the case may be, we can add those. Then when we're ready to start, we press and hold the cycle that we chose. We press and hold the cycle that we chose until the user interface starts to blink. Once the user interface starts to blink, we close the door and the unit will start to run. Likewise, if we forgot an item and we need to add something, we can just open the door. It'll pause the unit. We can add the item in, and then we press and hold that cycle button again until the user interface starts to blink, and then we close the door and the unit will begin to run. All right. Well, that kind of wraps up the dishwasher install. Any questions? I'll give you guys a minute for anyone who joined, if there is anyone that has a question on the dishwasher, before we go into the range. All right, I don't see anything in the chat. All right, well, let's move on. Let's talk about the range real quick. Now, this is going to be more so about the electric range, because that is the unit that is on the market as of right now. The gas range does not release until the 1st of November. So we're going to cover the basics of both ranges, but more specifically, we're going to be looking at the electric range. So for product overview, again, we're going to start with that serial number. Now, I have this one's a little bit different. This one's a little bit odd in this case, but on the serial number, you're going to see on the tag below, if you look at the picture of the serial tag, there it starts with the number 2, which is the production year. But when you go to do your warranty claim or fill out your serial number, you're going to be missing 3 digits. And those 3 digits are always going to be ahead of that number. And there's always going to be 3 zeros. So there's always 3 zeros going to be in this unit or in the serial number. It may not be printed on the tag, but there will always be 3 zeros in the front of that serial number on the tag. The first number you're going to see in that tag is going to be the number 2 in this case, which is going to be our production year. 2023, that would change to a 3. 2024, that changes to a 4. So that first digit that you're going to see on the tag is going to be that production year. The next 2 digits is going to be the week that that unit was produced. The very next digit is going to be a control digit. That's just going to give us as a manufacturer an idea of which manufacturing line and which employee shift created that or was responsible for building that particular unit. So you're going to see that particular control digit change throughout, depending on a lot of different circumstances. And then the last 4 digits you're going to see are going to be the position that that model or that particular unit was produced on the manufacturing line. So looking at my little sticker there, we see we got a couple things. Again, we're missing those first 3 zeros that should be there. Then we have our year, which is going to be 2022. Again, this is a brand new unit, literally just hit store floors a couple weeks ago. As far as the week it was produced, this was produced in week 33. Our control digit here is going to be control digit 9. And then it was produced number 170 on the manufacturing line. Now, this is where it gets interesting for the range. Now, this is a freestanding range, which means you can have a cutout between 2 cabinets, or because it is a freestanding, it could actually also be on the very end of the cabinetry. We do have a slide-in version on this. The difference between the freestanding version and the slide-in is like any other manufacturer. Freestanding units are going to be have finished sides on them. So it's going to be either black or stainless or whatever color the range is, but it's going to look finished. Whereas the slide-in style ranges do not have the side panel. That side panel is not there because it's going to be slid into a cutout, which means you're not going to see the side of it. So a couple different styles for that, but the dimensions are actually going to be the same. So we're going to see that we're about just over 29 inches wide, 36 inches high from the floor to the cooktop area, and then another 11 inches for that backsplash and that control. So do make sure that your cutouts are done properly. As you see in the dimensions there, we need at least about 30 inches wide for that cutout. And you do have enough space between the cabinets when you go to slide the unit in. Now, because this is an electric unit, that does mean that it runs on 240 volts. It will work on as little as 208 volts. However, your consumer may complain of poor heating or poor cooking ability. So it will run on anywhere between 208 and 240 volts. So do make sure that you have the proper outlet. Usually a 4-prong outlet is building code now. Some places, if it is an older home, you may still have a 3-prong outlet. So you may have to get a different pigtail that comes or a power cord that comes with or for the unit. Of course, like any machine today, when you go to install it, it does come with an anti-tip bracket. That anti-tip bracket must be installed. It must be installed. And that anti-tip bracket is going to be attached to either the wall or the floor, depending on your particular setup. And you do need to measure it out and follow the guide, the use and care guide, to get the proper measurements set up. About 13 3/8 inches from the side wall. And so it does connect into that rear foot of the unit when you go to slide it in, to keep the unit from tipping over and spilling everything that it may be cooking on the top shelf. Now, when it comes to the other things you need to watch for when you are installing a range, especially with our Hisense range, since that's what we're talking about today, is that 1, we need to be at least 6 inches away from a large side cabinet. If you look at the picture here, we see we have a larger pantry cabinet or refrigerator that's right there. We do want to be at least 6 inches away from that particular cabinet or refrigerator device. And then if it's a cabinet that's hanging down above the unit, we need at least 15 inches for cabinet space between the cabinets. So if this was all just cabinets here above our range, we do want at least 15 inches from the bottom of the cabinet to the surface of the cooktop. Most importantly, though, most of you are going to run across what we call an OTR range, or over the OTR microwave. And that's going to be a microwave that's attached to the cabinetry just above the range right here. I'm going to put that one in Hisense green because, hey, it's Hisense and it's green. You can't get much better than that. So from the bottom portion of that cabinet where the microwave would go to the cooktop, we need at least 30 inches, which means hopefully our microwave does not come down past or too much past that 15-inch mark. We do want that to be, let me erase this so we can look at it a little bit different here. There we go. So our OTR microwave, especially our Hisense one, it meets that criteria. So if our upper cabinet is 30 inches from the top of the cooktop, our OTR microwave is going to come down and be right on that 15-inch spot, which is going to be exactly perfect where we want it. Now, we know not everything is perfect, and some manufacturers or some consumers out there have microwaves that are bigger. I used to have one, and that could cause some issues when it comes to the sensors on the bottom of the microwave or the cooking on the cooktop. So again, kind of watch for that measurement. The bottom of the cabinet where that microwave would go to the top of the cooktop should be about 30 inches or right at 30 inches. And hopefully our microwave does not come down past, or the bottom of that microwave allows us to have a nice 15-inch gap from the bottom of it to the top of the cooktop. That way we're going to get the best possible heating and cooking experience in both units, and the microwave and the range. Now, as far as gas goes, real quick on the gas units, I don't have a lot of information on those today, but to kind of touch on them momentarily for us. Again, the gas can be set up as either standard gas, natural gas, or we do have the ability to convert it to liquid propane or LP. And so you can adjust that and you can hook up to the gas on that particular unit, and which means our electric for that particular unit is going to be 110 where the unit's going to plug in. So gas is coming and it is going to be available very soon. Pretty much a standard hookup on that, nothing too exciting. We do have to watch for making sure that the consumer has the right orifices hooked up for the type of gas that they're using, whether it's natural gas or the propane. And as always, as I get ready to wrap up momentarily here, if you are doing a gas conversion or if you are working on a gas unit, please make sure that you check with your local and state ordinances and guidelines and laws, because in some states you must be a licensed plumber in order to work with gas. And in some states, you actually have to be a licensed electrician in order to work on electric appliances with high voltage, such as ranges. So make sure you know your local laws in your area and what you are allowed to do and not allowed to do, because the last thing we want to happen is for you guys to get in trouble. So make sure that if you are supposed to be a licensed plumber to work on gas units, you have those licenses that you need. Or if you are in one of those few states or areas that in order to work on high voltage, such as 240, you need the proper licensing to do so, or being a licensed electrician, please make sure you have those. With that, that brings me to the end of the install. Pretty easy install on our stuff, not too difficult. Any questions so far? We're actually wrapping up just a few minutes early.